The sound of soap bubbles drifting through sunlight might not seem like the start of a scandal, but let me tell you, sometimes it's the simplest things that rip the cover off a whole world of secrets. You know what I mean? So there we were, two kids in the middle of a mansion built on old money and even older pain, one blowing bubbles to cheer up the other, a little boy who hadn't stopped crying since his mom died. And the next thing you know, every grown-up in that house is reevaluating what matters, who they trust, and maybe even how the past really happened. You ever see one tiny moment set off a chain reaction? That's what happened in the Blackwood mansion, and I'm telling you, nobody, not even the housekeeper, not even the CEO, saw it coming. Rose Johnson's hands were already cracked and raw from a morning spent scrubbing marble bathrooms, and all she wanted was to keep her job, pick up her little girl from school, and maybe get through one more day without anything falling apart. She'd learned to walk on eggshells around Mr. Blackwood, his rules, his schedule, that cold third strike, warning still ringing in her ears from yesterday. But life isn't neat like that, is it? Babysitters get sick, emergencies pop up, and sometimes you have no choice but to drag your 7-year-old through the service entrance of a house that could swallow your whole apartment and still have room for a ballroom. All she could do was promise her daughter Lily a bowl of mac and cheese after work and beg her, please, just be quiet, stay out of sight. But try telling that to a child whose curiosity is a force of nature. So Lily ends up where she shouldn't, inside the forbidden blue and white paradise of Thomas Blackwood's room, surrounded by toys he never touched, and face to face with a 6-year-old whose eyes were red from crying and whose soul had been shut off from the world for weeks. It wasn't a psychologist, a therapist, or a nanny who reached him. It was a kid with a bent straw and some dish soap, blowing rainbow wishes into the air. You want to talk about magic? There it is, right there. Lily's kindness cracked open the grief that had been suffocating this family, and for the first time in days, Thomas's laughter echoed down those marble halls. Now, you'd think Mr. Blackwood, a man with power suits and ice in his veins, would flip out, fire Rose on the spot for breaking the rules. But grief does strange things to people. Instead, he watched his son light up at the sight of those bubbles, saw a possibility he'd given up on, and just like that, the rules started to bend. Lily was allowed to stay after school. The guest room became her study space, and Rose, just a cleaner in his eyes 2 months ago, was suddenly at the center of something fragile and new. 3 weeks passed, and the mood in the mansion started to shift. The silence broke. Laughter drifted out of bedrooms and down staircases. Even Mrs. Henderson, the tough old housekeeper, started sneaking cookies to the kids when she thought no one was looking. But there's always a catch, right? For every bit of happiness, there's some old pain ready to push back. See, it wasn't just Thomas who needed healing. William Blackwood, for all his money and control, was still drowning in guilt over his wife Margaret's death. And the more Rose and Lily became part of their lives, the more the boundaries blurred between staff and family, between the past and whatever future these four might build together. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. A scholarship offer for Lily to attend the city's most elite private school. It wasn't just about education. It was about debts and gratitude and the ways people try to pay each other back for the things money can't fix. William framed it as a gift, a chance for Lily to have the kind of future his own son was guaranteed. But Rose knew what it really meant. Accepting would tie her and her daughter to this family in ways she couldn't quite control. Victoria Blackwood, William's sister, didn't like that one bit. She stormed into the breakfast room in designer heels, making it clear that she didn't trust the help to make decisions about Blackwood affairs. But see, here's where the real drama unfolds. Because just as these new connections were forming, the wounds from the past started bleeding again. Thomas locked himself in his late mother's closet, clutching her scarf and sobbing that he just wanted to smell her perfume one more time. Lily, in her infinite child wisdom, reminded him that bubbles could carry wishes to heaven, just like she did for her own dad, gone before she could really remember him. That little ritual became the glue for this makeshift family. Every Friday, they'd blow bubbles in the garden, each one a message for the ones they missed, and for a moment, the heaviness lifted. But you don't get to live in that happiness forever. not in a house where grief lives in every photo frame. As the school acceptance letter arrived, so did new suspicions about Margaret's accident. Whispers grew: insurance money, brake lines tampered, secrets buried in the Blackwood Foundation's charity work. At the annual Blackwood Technologies Gala, Thomas was honored for his Bubbles of Hope, Kits for Grieving Kids, a program he dreamed up with Lily. Just as Rose thought maybe, just maybe, they'd all made it to the other side of their pain, the police arrived. Margaret's case was reopened as a possible homicide. William was pulled away from the gala in handcuffs, his family's shame and sorrow suddenly front-page news that IT felt like every bubble of happiness they'd built was popping, one after another. The house became a pressure cooker, Victoria raging against the press, William spiraling with guilt and suspicion, Thomas losing sleep over legal terms he shouldn't even know at his age, Lily hiding her fears behind bravado. Rose was caught in the crossfire, torn between gratitude and the sense that she was just a bystander in someone else's tragedy. The police pressed her for a statement. Could she vouch for William's character? Was he the kind of man who could harm his wife? Rose could only tell the truth she'd seen. A father broken by loss, doing his best to heal his son. A man who never stopped loving the woman he'd lost, but also one haunted by secrets she might never fully understand. The investigation brought more twists. A USB drive, hidden in Margaret's car, was uncovered. Files from Blackwood Technologies. Whispers of an experimental project called Lazarus, a medical trial gone sideways. Victoria's carefully constructed world began to crumble. Mrs. Henderson admitted to overhearing arguments about the project before Margaret's death. Suddenly, everyone was a suspect, and the weight of what hadn't been said grew unbearable. And through it all, the children kept blowing bubbles in the garden, chasing moments of joy in a world that had become far too complicated for their small shoulders. Rose watched them, wondering if innocence could really survive all this mess, or if, like a bubble catching the sunlight, it was beautiful precisely because it was fleeting. Oh yeah, sometimes the thing that saves you is as fragile as soap and water, and sometimes the thing that destroys you is the secret you never meant to keep. In the end, the question isn't just who tampered with those brakes, but what kind of family survives when trust is broken, when truth is a moving target, and when the only thing holding you together is a little girl with a bent straw and the stubborn hope that wishes, if you blow them gently enough, might actually reach heaven. But that's just my take. What about you? Do you think justice will ever find its way through a maze like this? Would you have trusted Mr. Blackwood? Can a broken family ever really heal? Or is happiness always one sharp truth away from bursting? Tell me in the comments where you stand, because stories like this, they're never really finished until we all weigh in.